Hello and welcome to Queer News Tonight. This is the world's first and only LGBTQ plus daily evening television news, broadcasting live and then available on demand on all smart televisions, including Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, Amazon Fire TV, YouTube, and Facebook. It's time to queer up the news. It is Thursday, August 24th, 2023, and we are live and literally out of the closet and into the headlines. So many of your important stories we are going to tell this evening on Queer News Tonight.
This is the world's first live daily LGBTQ evening news show, literally out of the closet and into the headlines on Queer News Tonight with Al Ferguson.
I'm out South Florida senior reporter John Hayden. Al Ferguson has the night off. This evening, we bring you the news of and perspective representing the LGBTQ plus community from South Florida, America, and across our planet.
This is the world's first and only unedited live LGBTQ plus evening news show. Whatever happens unique in LGBTQ plus news, you will see it and hear it.
Hotspots Magazine Happening Out Television Network is a non-profit 501c3 media company in the same model of PBS and NPR, but designed for the LGBTQ plus community. Our mission is to support the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community. We want to inform and educate the key issues of our Black community, Latino, lesbians, and queer women, trans, student youth, seniors, HIV/AIDS, healthcare, business, social justice, and faith. Help us support our community.
We are part of one of the largest LGBTQ plus media companies in America, Hotspots Magazine and Happening Out Television Network.
Our magazine is celebrating 38 years of the LGBTQ plus experience, and our television news, talk, and entertainment shows support our mission to educate the LGBTQ plus and broader community.
Well, it's Thursday, so let's welcome our extraordinary panel and begin by welcoming anchor Bad Papi. Bad Papi is a Latin gender-fluid drag artist who redefines what it means to be trans and non-binary in the Latin community. They performed popular songs, Latin songs, providing a humorous and often insightful take on gender roles in Latin America to forward LGBTQ plus rights and empower the LGBTQ plus Latin community. Bad Papi is an icon for the LGBT Latin community and will be forever be the baddest Papi in town. Welcome.
Thank you.
Up next, Jonathan Casanas, a board member of Forward Miami. He is also one of the producers of Gay 8 Festival and the largest Latin diversity and inclusion festival in the nation. Welcome, Jonathan.
Glad to be here. I'm glad I made it today because it was a long night last night.
Okay, that'll be on the extra Queer News Tonight podcast that we record after the show. Up next, let's welcome anchor Paul Thomas. He is the chairman of the LGBTQ plus advisory committee to the city of Miami Beach, on the board of directors for the Point Foundation, and on the endorsement committee for SAVE. Welcome back, Paul.
Good evening, everybody. It's always fun to be here.
And finally, let's welcome anchor Bob Hentschel. He is a professional accountant and on the committee of My Hollywood Pride. He's a member of multiple gay Disney Facebook groups, including the Gay Days Monorail Pub Crawl. Welcome back, Bob.
Well, thank you so much. Glad to see everyone.
We are the reporters for Queer News Tonight, and this evening we begin with the queer headlines. The LGBTQ plus community in South Florida and across America is diverse. Our community across the world is vast. And here are the bullet points of the queer news for today, Thursday, August 24th. Well, let's begin by queering up politics. Hamburger Mary's drag debate to discuss the most ridiculous Republican candidate for president. Ron DeSantis tried to silence drag queens. Yesterday, they were speaking out against him at the biggest event of his struggling campaign. The first primary debate between Republican candidates for president was on Wednesday. While the candidates, including Florida's governor, met in Wisconsin, Wilton Manors became home of the resistance. Hamburger Mary's with Disney defenders presented drag queens like Christine Christie, Donna Trump, Ron DeSantis, and Michelle Pence, who took the stage at Mary's and debated which candidate is the most ridiculous. It was a tough challenge. While all the Republican candidates on the stage promoted their bona fides on restricting women's health and punching down on the LGBTQ plus community, especially LGBTQ plus youth, One candidate drew the ire of the drag queens more than most, DeSantis. He's the one that got the ball rolling on drag queens. Last year, he used a regulatory body to intimidate venues into not booking drag entertainment. This year, the legislature put in place a very restrictive law on live drag, which has since been put on hold by a judge. Last night, the very entertainers he targeted were ready to lambaste him. Hey everybody, John Hayden from out South Florida, and we are at the drag debate where all the GOP candidates just got dragged before their first Hunger Games style debate. And I'm going to let the candidates introduce themselves.
I am Rhonda Santos. I am Michelle Pence.
I am Christine Christie.
And I am Donald Trump.
Okay, so there were two questions that we needed to answer, and I will ask the first one. Who is the most dangerous candidate on the debate stage tonight?
Has to be Ron. It has to be Ron.
It has to be Ron. Ron DeSantis.
For real Floridian, you understand. All across the board.
Okay, why is he dangerous?
Well, first off, we are all drag entertainers here. Ron is dangerous because he is threatening drag queens. He's threatening our existence, he's threatening our job, and he's threatening our ability to be who we are. That's very dangerous.
Why is Donald Trump dangerous?
Because he's just don't let you be you. He's blocking trends. It's in every community, from in school, from teachers, from kids to adults. You just can't be yourself anymore. That's the problem.
The second one is, who is the most ridiculous candidate? Now you've got Donald Trump, who has orange skin and very tiny hands, and you've got Ron DeSantis, who lives under a rock, but in fairness, it's the same rock that most of the GOP lives under.
This is true.
So who is the most ridiculous?
I go for put fingers. That's Ron. Ron.
I still go for Ron.
Ron.
I say both but Ron.
Ron, you can go to hell.
Okay, so the vote is unanimous. It's Ron DeSantis, and let's make the vote unanimous that he's not going to get elected. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. All right, nice job tonight.
Likewise.
You know, that was a really fun night. It was a very serious cause, but it was really fun because they were up there, and before the debate started, all four queens were discussing real talking points. They weren't there just to mock the candidates. They talked about how every person up on that stage, at a minimum, is indifferent. The best we're going to get is indifference, and that's maybe from Chris Christie. Mm-hmm. All the others are hostile to our community, and they went point by point by point to show how our votes do matter and how everything can come to pass if we don't get out and vote. But I'll tell you, I had a lot of fun making that video last night because you could feel the energy in the room and you could feel the passion from all four of them around me. So I appreciate what they did, and I was there for Out South Florida. My column on the event is online at outsfl.com, and you can also check out the video there once again.
I think this is great. I feel like we should have done this sooner. I think, when they had the whole holder ban on drag queens, I think we should have done exactly this and made fun of everyone that we could, because we didn't protest in any other way. But I think this is kind of a safe way to do that and kind of bring a crowd in to kind of make people realize how ridiculous this all is.
Yeah.
Can we vote for these drag queens?
Yes.
We can vote for these drag queens?
We can write them in. we can email Hamburger Marys and say, please bring them back.
Didn't they win a lawsuit against DeSantis? Hamburger Marys is the organization, right?
The Orlando location.
Yeah.
And it was,
it's a great place to have that whole drag debate, considering that business really took a chance and stepped out and put themselves in the firing line, because these people are I don't even know how you get a public position, like an elected position. It's temporary. You're not going to be there for that long. There's only a couple of things and he's targeting businesses, he's targeting human beings, he's targeting education. It's like, that is not your job. Like, that's not
he's gonna have to move
your role. What are you doing?
Out of Florida.
You know what I mean? It's like, what is going on?
The thing of it is, he gets in there because we don't vote.
Yeah.
We don't get our base out.
You're right.
You're right. So the people with the loudest voices, that old saying, the squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yep.
Well, they do an awful lot of squawking.
That's right.
So
Yeah.
You know.
Good for Hamburger.
Oh yeah, we also got to help the voters get to the voting polls. We have to make sure that they have time off work. We have to make sure that they have like the food that they need, because the lines can be long. Those lines are ridiculous. And also there's some Republicans that also threaten like voters who are going to vote. You know, so we have to make sure that not only are people interested in voting, but that they're able to, and it's accessible for everyone.
I like that. I think your generation should really push through that election day is a national holiday.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is.
It is another
My generation tried. We didn't get there. You guys came through.
Pass on the torch. Give me the fire.
You know, I would agree with you, except I would expand it. I would say, just like most states have early voting now.
Yeah.
Just have voting week.
Yeah.
Oh,
You know, where the polls are manned, you know, Sunday to Saturday. And if they want to have early voting before that, great. But voting should be a week. And I also want to say, Paul, yes, to your point, Mary's led the way. They challenged it. It's just on hold, though, right now. The judge put it on hold because he believes it to be blatantly unconstitutional and that it will eventually be overturned. So the fight continues. But yes, Mary absolutely has led the way. Bob.
And as long as we're talking about early voting, you know, vote by mail, that I had to re-register for because this governor said take it off the, you know, I mean, I'm not going to say that joke. I was going to say I'm paler than pale. But, you know, I had to re-register to vote by mail and, you know.
I didn't know that. I'm glad you said that.
Every 2 years.
And then I don't know what state, I want to say it's the state of Oregon. They have online voting.
Oh, yeah, Washington,
I mean,
Oregon.
There's so much, you know, and now what Florida, I don't know, I know Broward does this. I can't speak to the rest of Florida, but, you know, Broward does have the ballot track system. I know they got my ballot. I know that it will get counted. I know that's a statewide thing in California, but I don't know if it's statewide in Florida.
There's a reason they don't want us to vote. Oh, yeah. There's a reason.
Oh, for sure.
100%, because, you know, us in this table, we all want to vote for LGBT rights, for people of color, for you, for everyone that we're advocating for, and they don't want that.
Yeah.
They don't want that.
Which is strange, right? Because we all live in America, and it's not up to you whether I'm free or not. Like, I don't know where they got this from. You don't get to make me less of a human so that I no longer have constitutional rights. I have them already. I'm not asking you for them. So but these laws, why all these laws keep getting overturned? Why 90% of his bills get overturned? It's because they're unconstitutional, because you actually cannot do that to people. So them going out of their way to target us it makes it even worse. Because they know they're not going to win.
But they don't care.
They don't care.
I don't think they care.
They care that they hurt you. Right.
Yeah, because it's the people that are voting that are going to say, yeah, that's not. Yeah. It's not necessarily like that it's going to pass.
Right.
It's more like we're on the same page. I want to vote for you.
Yeah. Dog whistles.
Yeah, dog whistles.
Yeah. Now I'd like to, before we move on to a completely another topic, did anybody here watch part of or all of the debate last night? I mean, I understand if you didn't have whiskey,
I just saw the commercial that Biden put right before or during the Republican debate, and it was kind of iconic because they were literally debating about all these things, and Biden was like, we had the best employment, we had lower unemployment, all that stuff, and I was just like, this is like iconic. It's so funny. Like Biden really did that.
You know, we debated 2 questions last night, me with the girls, and they did a much better job of it before I joined them on the stage. But we discussed who was the most dangerous, and then we also discussed who was the most ridiculous. And if you go back, and even if you just like pop in some of the highlights, go on YouTube and just find clips, you really can't take them out of context. You just can't. The stuff they said was so ridiculous. Like, if we do green energy, green electric cars, then we're helping China, so we need to use fossil fuels back here in America. I mean,
what they said.
That was Nikki Haley. Nikki Haley said that. Of course, you know, Ron DeSantis said, you know, he came to fight or was loaded for bear or something. I mean, Chris, and when they asked, if the nominee is convicted of a felony, will you still vote for him? And 6 of the 8, and I'm not sure if Christie raised his hand or if it was sort of, me too, but 6 of them were like, hands up right away. They were falling over themselves to vote for someone who has 91 felony charges pending against them. And tonight, and tonight was Donald Trump set to fill in. We're on at 8. I haven't been able to watch. He was supposed to surrender at 7:30.
Right.
Hopefully that came to pass. But I mean, it's just the cult of personality is just mind blowing.
We throw in that the felony charges are for attacking democracy.
Yeah.
So these aren't felony charges like he went drinking and driving. This is like he literally attacked democracy, everything that America stands for, and they're like, "Oh yeah, I'll vote for him." Anyway,
everybody in that auditorium is totally fine.
And it's because they're not democratic; they're fascist.
Right? Exactly.
They are. They are a democratic. They are a fascist country.
Absolutely.
But it really helps draw the contrast between what they stand for and what people who don't betray their country and become traitors stand for. It's going to be a long 15 months.
Oh yeah.
Yes, it is.
It's going to go longer. Sorry, it's going to go longer.
Well, we'll be back. We'll be back here next December. You and me. Up next, let's queer up education. Florida new college right-wing takeover offers more benefits for men. Despite the U.S. Supreme Court ruling affirmative action based on race and gender will no longer be allowed in college admissions, one Florida college, controlled by conservatives appointed by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis, is considering ways to attract more men to its student body. Presidential hopeful DeSantis appointed Chris Rufo to the Board of Trustees at New College over on the West Coast. He is a far-right extremist who advocates anti-LGBTQ+ views in his public statements. The college has served as a haven for students from a variety of backgrounds, with a focus on eliminating diversity, equity, and inclusion measures and attacking the curriculum. A hard shift to the right has driven students away. New College's leadership recently decided to eliminate the gender studies program from the curriculum. Additionally, the school is shifting its demographics towards a male-dominated environment. Women made up 66% of New College's scholars historically, and Rufo said, quote, "This is a wildly out of balance student population, and it caused all sorts of cultural problems, creating what many have called a social justice ghetto," end quote. He said new leadership will work on rebalancing the ratio of students. Oh my God. There's so much here. I mean, first off, New College, for those people who don't know, has always, puts the liberal in liberal arts. It has been a place for, as we said, predominantly women, LGBTQ+ students. It's no accident that this is the college that DeSantis and his cronies are going after. I think like something around the third, 20%, 30% of the staff has left because it's just illiterate education. That's really the best thing that you can call it. He's doing other things like at UF and USF and things like that, but it's nowhere is it more pronounced than at New College. And thank God we're making it easier for men to get in. We've had it far too long.
I mean, it's not like cis white men founded the idea of colleges and universities to begin with. Like, God forbid, right?
Right, God forbid.
Oh my.
This is fascism, and it's once again, it's another culture battle that we won in the 60s and 70s that they're reopening, and they're winning this time because we weren't prepared to refight the battles of a generation ago.
I just want to know, like, how many students are really thinking this is like a social injustice, and how many of them want to be part of a sausage fest of a college? There's not a lot of straight boys I know that want to go to an all-male college anyway. I'm pretty sure they're not going to want to go to this college if it's 70% male. Like, good luck with that, buddy.
Yeah.
The New College being, first of all, that guy, Chris Caputo, is way too young to have these kind of views.
Wait, what?
What is his name?
No, Chris Rufo. Chris
Rufo.
Caputo is
Chris Rufo.
Road Manners commissioner.
My apologize, Commissioner. Chris
Rufo.
Rufo.
Yeah.
Way too young to be. Where's this young person getting these crazy ideas from? I feel sorry for him.
There's some young ones as a young.
Way too young. Young people should know. Like any young person, I don't know. That's a big problem, right? The whole point of part of technology and access to education was that everyone had access to information was to get rid of these discussions. You're not supposed to become dumber with access to information. Somebody his age is like failing.
It's just Republicans complain about liberals indoctrinating, but they're indoctrinating themselves. That's why we have young people that are of that mind.
Bob?
I was gonna say I didn't see a picture of this guy till just now.
Right.
Okay. Brace yourselves, people.
I'm scared.
I can tell by looking at him, he definitely suffers from. He definitely has a small penis because there's just you mentioned young. That's the only reason that. I mean, it's like, why else would he try to?
Are you saying that penises get bigger as we get older?
No, I'm saying his.
Okay.
Poor thing. No, because it's like, if there's just something psychological that, men aren't getting a fair shake. Well, if you were sure about your manhood, you wouldn't try to shove it down my throat. There are other things I'd rather have shoved there. Thank you very much. I did say that.
That will also be covered when we in the podcast afterward. We're going to discuss Jonathan's late night.
We would like to think, they're young. They'll get. No, the acorn does not fall far from the tree.
That's for sure. And then I just also want to point out real quick this idea of freedom. This DeSantis guy, he's always talking about Florida being so free, but it's not really a free state when you decide you don't like a university. It's got nothing to do with you. And then you put your friends in there that have a certain ideology and force people, and then change the whole makeup of to go I want it to look like this, and I only want them to learn these things. And are you getting how that's not free? You can't think for yourself. You can't be who you want to be. You can only think what we want you to think. You can only read what we want you to read.
Free because
that's not freedom.
You get to choose not to go there, and that's the difference here. Is that they're allowed to do that. But I'm also allowed to say, no, I don't want to go to that college. And they're going to change the landscape of it, and people are going to not show up.
Also, one more point, because we addressed affirmative action, when are we going to stop legacy admissions?
Yeah, when?
When is that going to happen, since we're taking away affirmative action?
Legacy has always been the affirmative action for white cisgender hetero men.
I don't know if you know, but legacy admissions started when there was a big push for freedom in America, and they didn't want Jews and they didn't want black people to have access to higher education, and so they started the legacy admission to diminish the chances of us getting.
All right.
We will absolutely be keeping track of this as we go forward.
Yeah.
All right. Let's queer up entertainment. Legendary HIV positive activist to be Drag Race Germany host. The Drag Race universe is expanding. Over the past 15 years, RuPaul's Drag Race has touched almost every part of the globe. The massively successful series is streamed worldwide and increasingly has been launching franchises in a variety of countries. One of the latest iterations sees an activist living with HIV take up some of the hosting duties for the series. Barbie Breakout, most known globally for a gruesome video protest she staged against Russia in 2013, is one of 2 announced hosts for the new show. She previously also appeared on shows like The Diva in Me and Shopping Queen. On Drag Race Germany, she will be joined by Gianna Jovanovic. The show will air beginning in September. The 45-year-old who has been living with HIV for 18 years will be the latest in a long history of queens involved with the franchise living with HIV. In RuPaul's Drag Race Season 1, Ongina came out in an emotional moment after winning a Mac Viva Glam Challenge. She has been followed by others like Trinity K. Bonet, as well as Charity Case in RuPaul's Drag Race UK, and Norma Jan on Drag Race Italia. But Barbie marks the first as a host. I love this story. This is great. I mean, I'm kind of a pessimist because I don't want to label people as having HIV, like you're the HIV activist because you have HIV. But it's also beautiful to tell people that we can survive, we can live, we're not dying like we were. It's not a sin to live with HIV. Like, we can do great things, and being a host in a conglomerate, and something so big like Drag Race is a huge feat. And I'm glad that we get to tell this story. And I hope that, you know, other ally organizations who news organizations can, you know, tell the world that these stories happen and we are thriving.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. I mean, literally just this past Saturday, we had the Break the Stigma conference by Aqua Foundation, where we basically talked about the stigma of having HIV, specifically among the woman community. And it's ridiculous, you know, but something that one of the speakers, Sean Tisley, said that really resonated to me is that she's HIV positive, but everybody's HIV positive too. Everybody should be HIV positive because we should have a positive mindset and outlook towards this. Like, that's the way we break the stigma, by showing that people who are living with HIV can have beautiful lives, can live long, can be hosts in shows, you know, they're out here living, thriving, doing their best thing.
Why do you think there's still stigma? Even within our own community, why is there still stigma?
I think, you know, because
old people are still alive.
Yeah, that, and also, like, the government didn't want to do anything when HIV was a thing, you know? Like, well, it is still a thing, but I mean, like, when it was a pandemic, the government basically made it a gay disease, and they consider gay men disgusting. That's the reality of it. And that's why we still have the stigma to this day.
40 years on.
40 years on.
The other thing is, you know, this country has never had any sort of healthy mindset around sex and sexuality. It comes from that Puritan background that has been going back since the founding of this country. You know, and, you know, I still, despite the fact that my late husband, you know, God rest his soul, he was 24 years positive at the time of his death. You know, I still struggle with it, you know, not to the extent that I did beforehand, because when you're married to somebody and you share a bed for 4 years, you get over your crap really freaking fast, or at least I hope so. But, you know, I'm kind of glad this, and I'm going to use the word bitch. And when I say bitch, I say beauty in total control of herself. Okay? And all the articles all reference she and her, so I'm okay using that. You know, this woman has stones, because I read the gory details of that protest for Russia. And it's like, I want that woman next to me, or however she views herself. I want that person next to me in the fight, because I know she's going to throw a punch when it's needed.
What you mentioned, and really what we see in healthcare, the big problem, and something that we're trying to address right now, is having these conversations outside of gay spaces. And what you talked about, the fact that we're talking about this as a news story in straight spaces, they're not having this conversation at all.
Oh, yeah.
So there are lots of straight people that have HIV that have no one to talk to.
She's a cis heterosexual black woman.
Right, and so the stigma is huge. I still have tons of straight patients who are fearful to get their medication, that their spouse might see it.
Exactly.
They're like, you can't mail anything to the house. You can't, and so we really need to have these conversations a lot more, but not in silos. Yeah. And we need to start to give other people not just the opportunity, but give them permission to start to have conversations about not just HIV, but also sex and sexuality and gender.
But I think that this is one of the great things about this story, is that these conversations, by RuPaul franchising into all these other countries, is a really great thing. And it gets that conversation. It gets that conversation started. And I think what is really great about this is like you brought back up the Russian protest, or you brought back up the Russian protest, with everything that's going on in Russia right now. This is just an extra poke in the eye from Germany, because remember, they tried to colonize or control them for half a century after World War II. But this is just a poke in the eye, because this woman is not having it. She's been a great advocate and for her community and against Vladimir Putin. And so I just love that it's just that last little screw you, Vladimir Putin. But I'm also not going to copy him in on my flight travel plans.
No.
All right, well, next, let's queer up trans rights. North Carolina laws blocking trans rights have drawn less backlash than bathroom bills. 7 years ago, North Carolina became ground zero in the nationwide fight over transgender rights with the passage of a bathroom bill that galvanized culture warriors, canceled business projects and sporting events, and influenced a gubernatorial race. While a similarly Republican-controlled legislature's enactment of recent laws aimed at transgender youth generated passion from advocates and legislators, the public pushback against these policies has been insignificant compared to 2016 and House Bill 2. And the corporate world largely has taken a pass on getting involved. What can the change in attitudes be attributed to? Republican Senate leader Phil Berger acknowledged last week that the bathroom bill is widely regarded as the prelude to the present wave of legislation affecting trans people nationwide. When the law passed, major sports tournaments, businesses, and conventions pulled out of North Carolina, costing the states hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue before the policy was eventually rolled back in 2017 and settled in federal court in 2019. Republicans now hold veto-proof majorities in both chambers for the first time since 2018, which has opened the door to some LGBTQ plus restrictions that had not previously gained traction in the state. I'm tired, y'all. As a trans person, I'm just tired. You know, and to be honest, I'm not even surprised with how the businesses are acting and how they're pushing back and pulling back on their word. After Dylan did her thing for that beer company and they didn't back her up, I honestly just wasn't surprised because they don't really care about trans rights. They care about money. They don't care about us. And the sad thing is that there's real people behind it. There's real people behind these laws that are literally like not only not getting access to healthcare, but being murdered because of the stigma, because of the miseducation, because of everything that's just been happening in society. It's just disgusting, and I'm just tired. I'm just tired.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have to. I don't know. We're gonna have to do something about the amount of power our elected representatives are able to wield with their short terms in office. Because I can easily see how, we saw it here in Florida, where right away, if you were a company that didn't agree, like a Disney, then he tried to change the laws, he tried to destroy your company, right? And this is not supposed to be in a democracy. In a fascist country, yes, but not in a democracy and not in America for sure. And I can see how North Carolina is being affected by that veto-proof majority.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the companies are going. Now, I don't know if you remember, but a lot of those companies that are in North Carolina right now that have made it a pretty wealthy state, they were all, a lot of people tried to get them to move here, and they wouldn't come to Florida for various reasons. One of them being education.
Yeah.
And now they're up there in North Carolina, and now they're being faced with the same thing, right?
Yep.
Like, what do we do? How do we, remember when you open a company, just as an example, you open a company somewhere, you go like, I get 20 years of tax breaks because I'm going to do this and this for the company, right? And then these people get voted in for the little 2 years in office, and they go, oh, I'm going to take away your tax break. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that to you. I'm going to do.
Yep.
And next thing you know, there's silence in these places.
Yeah.
I don't know.
There's also, let's go into the lies they've been telling us for the last several years. Groomer comes to mind, and we're after your children. And I think, I wrote it down differently, but, I think people are believing the lies because I don't know I think they're believing it more now than they did then. I don't know how to counteract that. You know,
I think it's by introducing them. It's by me going out there and talking to them and being like,
and I agree. And I'll admit it here and now that because of my involvement in Queer News Tonight, I've become, I don't know what word to use. I've become a lot more informed around trans issues than beforehand.
Yeah.
Because I've had to sit across the table from them. Mm-hmm. I've had to talk to them. They've treated me nicely, which carries a lot of weight in my book. But yeah, there's an awful lot of people who feel more threatened now. We have that business owner in California who was an ally who got shot for having a pride flag. We've got Bud Light. We've got Disney. People are feeling more threatened. It's not any one thing. It's a combination of things. And that's what they hope that we're going to be so... The I heard years ago was shock and awe. They dropped so many bombs on us that we don't know what to deal with first.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that they see trans people as this like oogly boogly monster or whatever. Like I'm gonna like snatch your kids and like I don't know, like I don't know what they think, but like they see me as a monster.
We have to figure out a way to make people stand up because now is not a time to back down. So,
yeah, but it's which people, right? Like when you said you're tired, like I feel like there's a large majority of people that are like, it's not my fight. I'm tired of hearing this shit. Why do I need to get involved? Mm-hmm. Because this story,
we teach a story about that, right?
Yeah.
That eventually they come for you.
For you, right?
And people should have learned that. People should have seen that in Florida as an example. Yeah. So the thing is, there's no time to be tired.
Yeah.
There's no time
for trans people. There's no time.
And there's no time for. There's really only time for. Like right now, what we need is the companies in North Carolina to stand up and go, you know what? We're all together going to not accept this from these politicians.
Though. That's what I'm trying to say is like, I feel like this story just says a lot in the fact that people are not going to fight for trans people. Like, it's just sad and they're giving up.
It also starts in the LGBT community too, because I have seen a lot of LGBs not support the T. Let me tell you.
We've been lamenting that on this show for a long time. That, you know, and I think once we got marriage, everybody was like, and I know this isn't an original thought, but it is true. Once we got marriage,
we're done.
That's it. That's the pinnacle. That's the end all be all. And I remember that.
All right, guys, time to pack up.
Meanwhile, there are still several states where you can get fired for being gay. So what's the
including Florida?
Get it.
And I was working still working in a broadcast newsroom on the day that marriage equality came down. And oh my God, that was such a great day. That was such a great day. I think I left work at 3.
It wasn't great for everybody though. I didn't really understand it. Like as a black person in the LGBT, I was like, what are they talking about? Because that didn't make me more free. At all. Like marriage didn't make me more free at all. Yeah. I still have to worry about the cops. Yeah. I got to worry about that crazy Karen. I got to just to walk down the street. I still got to worry about all these people targeting me daily. Yeah. And I'm sure as a trans you can understand. You leave the house, you're a target.
Yeah.
And it's like that didn't change anything. So when people were like, "Oh, we're done," I was like, "Done what? Done doing what?" You live in a state where you have no freedom. There's no equal protections for gay people in the state of Florida. There never have been. What do you mean you're done? I'll
share this with you.
But everybody's equal now.
I am a white presenting man. You know, allegedly I should feel safe, but I'm sorry. I still carry the memories of being called faggot at 10 years old in a schoolyard in Somerdale, New Jersey.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Paul, I understand what obviously I don't understand what your experience, but I'm trying to understand what you're saying. And I think maybe to say it was a great day, you're right. It wasn't a great day for everyone. But I think there might have been a sense of a false sense of security and acceptance.
But John, it's okay if it was a good day for you, though.
Well, this is a really good day for me.
But really, what it showed is, you know, when you have these organizations and these different that are all run by the same people. right? And it was like mostly white gay men that were running everything. So in their minds, them and their marriages were safe.
Yeah,
Right.
but the rest of the LGBT community, there was
was
still
like
issues and problems being
huge
that's where
issues and
intersectionality
problems,
comes in.
right?
Right.
Which is why we try to diversify things more now, and they still don't want to do that. We're like, but there's a lot of work to do.
But, and getting to what you touched on, the other fights to fight. I remember because the decision came down about 10 o'clock in the morning. By 2 o'clock, 3 o'clock that afternoon, there were already, by this time, we had all the celebrations, but the Republicans were getting into the office on CNN and on Fox and MS. And they were already saying, well, okay, fine, this happened, but we're going to make sure that they don't have to bake the cake, that they don't have to make the website. So they were already coming for us, even on what arguably is the high watermark of LGBTQ rights. And getting back to the North Carolina discussion, I think the word that we need to use for this is it's been normalized.
Yeah.
We were all up in arms in 2016 with these wretched bathroom bans. Even Mike Pence, who was governor of Indiana, had to step back and roll back a couple of bathroom bills that happened around the same time as North Carolina. But now, it's everywhere. Now it's not just North Carolina. It's Florida. It's Tennessee. It's Texas. And it's normalized. And the next time Republicans don't get their way at the ballot box, the first time, January 6th, is shocking. The second time,
yeah, but they've normalized that too.
That's what I'm saying. The second time, it'll be normalized. It will be a step toward what, John?
That's a lot. Like it's scary what you said, and I'm here for it. I'm here.
Yeah.
They literally had banned trans women from chess competitions. Chess.
Yes, I remember.
Oh yes,
doesn't make any sense. Like, are you trying to say that women are like inherently like less intelligent than men? Because that's what you're trying. Basically, that people were assigned female at birth are less intelligent than people.
They've always thought that in America, though.
Yeah, but then why would they ban them?
Why would they ban them? The ERA's still never been ratified in America. Women are not equul under the law in America. Yeah. And for people to ever sit back and go, "We're done," it just blows my mind. Because it's like,
women
who's done?
Yeah, because new college is going to take back those women education.
And it all comes back to voting, right? Yeah. They wouldn't be doing this if they didn't have veto-proof majorities.
Right.
They're doing it because they know they can get away with it.
Well,
the only way they can continue it is to keep that majority. So we have to vote. We have to get these people out of office.
Absolutely.
All right, Paul, you're next.
I'm next? Oh, wow. All right. We'll switch to a little fun and queer up some drag culture. Mama Ru. I kind of like that name for her. Continues world domination, we're just talking about, with Drag Race Season 16 on MTV and All Stars 9 on Paramount Plus. Let RuPaul's ever-expanding global queendom rejoice as franchise OG RuPaul's Drag Race has gotten the go-ahead for a 16th season on MTV, while Drag Race All Stars will stream on a 9th season on Paramount Plus. RuPaul's Drag Race Untucked, which airs on MTV, will also be back. On Monday, the network revealed that the new episodes of RuPaul's Drag Race will return to MTV soon, while All Stars 9 will again stream on Paramount Plus, with fan favorite queens rejoining the series for a shot at a spot in the Drag Race Hall of Fame. The announcement comes on the heels of Drag Race franchise's 9 Emmy nominations, including another nod for RuPaul as host and for the overall series in the Outstanding Reality Competition category. If RuPaul wins in the host bracket for an 8th consecutive time at the January 2024 ceremony, he will extend his record as the most decorated Black artist in TV Academy history. Drag Race continues its unprecedented global success, adding new international spin-offs in Brazil and Mexico this year. Other countries with their own versions of the show include Australia, Canada, Chile, France, Holland, Italy, Spain, and Thailand, among others. Listen, this is like amazing to me. You know, I'm a guy of a certain age, and I remember when drag was underground in New York. You had to know where the place was. It was just, you know, and and everybody was loving it as like an art form, and it was like, you should come check this out. But now to see, because, you know, in our previous segment, we were talking about how much farther we have to go, or maybe I was talking about how much farther we have to go, but we really have made some progress, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
and
absolutely.
I mean, it's been 30, 40 years, but the show is all over the world.
Oh yeah.
And it is super popular, and it's winning at, you know, and the messages, if you take the time to watch the show, not only do you get the great art, but there's always great life lessons. There's always lots of hope. There's always lots of, you know, a passing on of, if I'm here, you can do it too. Hey, that saves lives, you know? I work in healthcare for a long time. That saves lives. Somebody goes, I was watching TV and I heard somebody go, you can do it too. And like, I didn't kill myself that day. That's a real thing, you know? And this show has a lot of that in it.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm really, really, really happy for Rue, but then also for the franchise to really use itself as a social justice tool and expand into other countries despite the pushback, and to keep performing anyway. I love it. I don't watch it a lot, but I love what it's doing.
The idea of just the idea, knowing that it's
I
there.
love that it's there.
You know what else has there's a lot of in RuPaul's Drag Race?
What's that?
Death drops. Yeah. Oh my God, I can't get enough of the death drops. Were there any at last night's lip sync battle, Jonathan?
I was backstage because I was lip syncing, so I didn't get to see a lot of.
Did you do any death drops?
I did not.
Okay.
I did come out in a diaper though, so that was different. I wasn't gonna death drop in a diaper.
Wait,
just
there had better
Google
be
it.
pictures of that.
I think you have to be under a certain age.
Yeah.
Death drop.
Yeah, I stopped doing it at Walla because I was hurting myself. But you know, what I love about a Drag Race is like where it's come from, because it was pretty conservative at first, even though you think it's not. But now it has like HIV activists, trans activists, had trans winners. Like it's amazing where it's come from. And this is coming from a homosexual. RuPaul was not allowing these types of individuals to be part of the contest, and she's like, you know what am I doing? And now she has, every time after, if it's a voting year, she'll have them at the end put up voting signs and where to go register to vote. Like things have changed, and it's beautiful to see this progress, even though sometimes every story is kind of a downer. I'm glad we have a good one that we get to talk about and see where we've come from, you know?
And the amazing thing is, I think it was Jinx Monsoon just appeared in Chicago, and it's like they're just not showing up on Drag Race and, you know, a one and done. They're actually, you know, going out and doing things and being recognized and
becoming millionaires
and being part of the community. And you can't really put a price tag on that. Of course, my editor does, but we'll discuss that.
I personally, I'm very proud of the franchise. I love the queens. I love Rue. However, Mama Rue, come on. I'm a drag king.
I knew he was going.
Come on, Mama Rue. Like, let me into your franchise. I can do it.
That's a good point. See, that's a great place, right, to expand the table. We're always trying to expand the table, make it a little bit bigger. Make more room for more seats.
They're worldwide now. Come on, let us in. Let us drag kings in. I can perform. I can dance. I'm Bad Papi, the baddest Papi in Miami.
I like that.
Let me do it.
All right, Rue. Do you hear us, Rue?
I'm going to expand your title. You're not the baddest Papi in Miami. All South Florida.
All South Florida.
All South Florida.
I don't know about that. Relax.
Palm Beaches, baby. That's all you. But I love that. I love that RuPaul is expanding herself, her empire, all of this. And you mentioned the first season. The first season would not have been nominated for 9 Emmys. Maybe 9 Razzies if they did a television category. But to have watched the show grow over all this time and see its impact, like we discussed, on the world, not just on MTV at 9 on Fridays or whatever. To see it in the world is just such a great thing for our community.
I think she taught the lesson, and you kind of brought it up, is that you can be at a place, anybody who's watching, you could be at a place and go, I'm doing this wrong. I'm not including people. I'm hurting people.
It's growth.
Wait, what I'm doing is opposite of what I think and maybe even believe. I need to change. And that's a huge thing, because I don't think enough people know how to do that. They don't know how to do, we were doing it wrong. We got to change this up. it's only made her show better.
Yeah, absolutely.
But hopefully taught a lot of people a lesson.
Absolutely.
You can do that. You can change no matter what you thought yesterday.
Yeah.
It can be different today.
Papi brings up an interesting point, though, because, you know, this whole concept of drag kings. And that tells you about how rare it is that I said I was attempting to say drag queen when I wanted to say drag king. But, you know, I mean, how many are out there? I don't know. I know.
Lots.
I mean, I know that, you know, we have an imperial court in Florida.
Yep.
Part of the worldwide imperial court system. P.S. Jose Sarria just got inducted into California Hall of Fame.
Wow.
Yes, he did. The current emperor posted it, and he and I are friends on Facebook. But it's like, you know, I mean, in my drag days, and believe it or not, I did have drag days. I
have a picture of that as well.
Yeah, we need documentation.
I have documentation.
I'm going to post that next to your
That's the least of it. But it's like, you know, I was surrounded by drag queens. I don't know how many. I didn't see a lot of drag kings.
Well, listen, even in the UK, I can't remember her name right now. There is a drag queen, a lesbian drag queen, who performs as a woman, but she also can be a drag king. And one of the episodes was like, what's the Fabio? She dressed up as Fabio, and it was amazing. I think she won that challenge, I believe. So you just have to start opening your eyes and seeing what's out there, because if you're not exposed to it, you'll never grow. So just keep watching them, and then let's do a whole drag queen show. Drag queen. Don't do it yourself. No, for the whole drag queens. Like, honestly, grab a bar, a venue, ask them if you could do it.
We have TV cameras here. We could do it here.
We will do it right now.
Okay, we're not going to do it right now. Okay, we don't have time. I've got things to do, but I love you all.
All right. Well, next, let's clear up health. Elderly man beaten and burned by nursing home staff for being gay later passes away. Ted Brown said his now deceased civil partner of 50 years, Noel Glynn, received bruises and cigarette burns from homophobic workers while living in a London nursing home for 9 months. Brown sued the local council that oversees the home, and the council offered a $38,000 settlement to Brown 2 years ago, but he said he hasn't received any of the promised money yet. Glynn lived in the Albany Lounge nursing home in Croydon in South London from December 2018 to October 2019 while receiving care for dementia. Brown paid $1,787 a month for Glynn's care. Brown said 2 LGBTQ+ residents advised them to stay closeted, otherwise it would not be good for them. Brown became alarmed several months later when he discovered that Glynn had tried to independently leave the nursing home 4 times. Glynn told a social worker in January 2019 about the physical abuse he faced in the nursing home. A whistleblower at the home told Brown that he witnessed a staff member approach Glynn in the hallway and ask, "Are you a gay man? Do you like gay men?" They then dragged Glynn into his room, and everyone heard Glynn calling for help. Glynn moved out of the nursing home and into a new facility in October 2019. Glynn died in December 2021 after falling and fracturing his ribs. Okay, children.
Oof.
You know, the sad part is that this is not an exception, because I've been hearing things out of the corner of my ear about people in the United States going into nursing homes and going back into the closet. I will be the first to admit, working for a construction company, that I sort of kind of had to do the same thing, because when you work for a mom and pop furniture store where the lead designer is a gay man and very open about it, it's really easy to be gay in that kind of environment. But it angers me that well into the 3rd decade of the 21st century, this crap is still happening. And of course, I'm a little disappointed in that it was happening in England, which, by the way, had gay marriage before we did. And I only know that because I celebrated the marriage of my British friends in Newcastle, and hopefully they're watching. See you in September. You know, it just, I can't, Papi said, I'm tired, because it's like, I'm, you know, I've always had a policy, and I developed this for myself years ago. I will never volunteer out of my own safety, but if I'm flat out asked, I'm going to tell you, because if you have the stones to ask, I'm going to have the stones to answer back.
Okay.
But at this point, you know, I am too old for this crap. Yeah. I am just too old.
Unfortunately, a lot of the aging LGBT community faces these kind of problems, especially in healthcare. And it's been well documented that there's a lot of abuse in nursing homes, a lot of abuse in elderly homes, specifically targeting LGBT elderly people. And another reason why is because a lot of LGBT people who are aging don't have support systems. They don't have families. They don't have, you know, people that they can go to if something goes wrong. You know, and that's why they take advantage of it.
This is so layered, right? Because the population that's going into nursing homes now, they didn't have family support back then, right? What we've tried to do with coming out and being proactive and changing and expanding the education system and changing even how we do healthcare, right? Accepting pronouns and all that, people, it becomes a part of their life, so that a lot more people now do have that family support.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So we have this crisis right now of, what are we going to do? This generation is here. It's the first time in humanity that we have an older out population. But because of resources, they're ending up in these situations where this poor gentleman got beat up, but I've been hearing for years about many older LGBTQ people that just choose suicide. Because they can't even live back in the they ran away from home. They've been living in Fort Lauderdale their whole life. They're 70-something years old. They get sent back to Iowa or somewhere. They haven't been there since they ran away when they're 15, and they just choose to end it. This is not an acceptable way for us, especially in this country, to be at that point in our lives, right? We have to do a lot better.
I'm going to add a layer to that, because I don't know how true this is today, but certainly back in the day, it's like you know, we've all made the joke. I'm sure I certainly made the joke in my younger days about the troll. And, you know, it's like, it seems we hit a certain age and all of a sudden we disappear. And it's like, you know, and by the way, follow the old gays on Twitter, or what's left of Twitter. X. There's a group of 4 old gay men.
I love them. I've seen them.
I love them too. But you know, we need to start taking care of our own, and not just the younger ones, not everybody.
Well, yeah, that's what I was going to say. I mean, I think, you know, this story is not exclusive to the LGBTQ community. This is widespread. I mean, even in Miami, we've had many cases, and now they kind of put some policies and cameras in order now, so that it doesn't happen as much, because it's true what Papi said, like, people are getting left alone. What's great about us is we do have organizations now that provide assisted living for LGBTQ plus communities, where you can volunteer and spend time with a senior LGBTQ folk. But I don't want to scare everyone and think like this is happening to all older, you know, LGBTQ folks. But the way that we combat that is by volunteering for, I think, Delano Living as well, that does these kind of things. Because once you get a certain age, people start to die off and you're left alone and you don't have family, especially when you're from the older generation where you were ostracized. So I think we should focus on that, and maybe not focus so much on the fear mongering that this is going to happen to us when we get older.
Well, hopefully it won't happen to us, but we should also talk about that organization, SAGE, because a lot of what SAGE does is they go in and they train the nursing home staff who didn't know. I mean, they just didn't know, right? But now they know. Now there's a resource. Now you do not have any excuse. If you work in healthcare, to me, when you have a vocation like healthcare or like education, you're kind of born with it, right? You want to help people. So for you to be that type of person and then to abuse a patient doesn't even make sense to me. It's like
the Hippocratic Oath. Like, what are you doing?
And
it's like, well, what are you doing there? Like, how did you end up in a place to take care of people?
And we've only been putting people in nursing homes really on a massive industrial scale for about 50 years.
Right.
You know, I remember as a kid,
less, yeah.
I was a dork. I was watching 60 Minutes on Sunday nights. And I remember as a kid seeing, you know, like these nursing home exposés. And this wasn't an LGBTQ thing.
Yeah.
This is just an aging problem.
Right.
That we don't have people to take care of our older people. And this person fortunately had a partner who was able to intervene and stop. But we're at, you know, especially right now, because the current younger generation, a lot of them are going to have kids of LGBTQ. You know, we're going to have kids and things like that. But the current generation that's starting to go into nursing homes right now and have been there at the early onset of baby boomers, they don't have anybody to watch their back. And before we move on, I just want to say, this person, or the people who were abusing these seniors at the English place, they're not homophobic. I don't even like the word homophobic because they're not afraid.
They're scared, yeah.
Phobic means that they're scared.
Yeah.
There's not homophobia.
No.
This is just vicious bigotry, start to finish, case closed. And we have to, like you said, SAGE is a great resource, and there are others. There are Rainbow Services here in South Florida. Come in and do semi-assisted living. They're there during the day until the partner can come home, and they are specifically LGBTQ+. It's sad that we have to continue to create our own community at every level, but that's what we're doing.
SunServe runs a senior daycare in the other building.
Right across the patio from us. So services are out there, and I encourage you, even if it's one of your friends, if you're, you know, a partying 35-year-old, but you know someone who's around 70 and starting to get a little
Your neighbor down the hall.
Look out for them.
Oh yeah. We're our family.
Do some research for them.
Yeah.
Find a place. Not doesn't even have to be to warehouse them, for lack of a better term.
Yeah.
It can be to find an assisted living. You know, we've got the what is it at Pride Center? There's 55 units for senior living, and it's all income, or at least most of it is income-based rent for our LGBTQ plus seniors.
We had Lambda Living had a program on the beach, down in South Beach, and so I had a lot of my older neighbors and patients who were LGBTQ, and they would come and pick them up in an event, and they would bring them for the day, and they would get, one day they'd watch movies, the other day they'd play dominoes, the other day they would play. They were having a ball 5 days a week. At least they got them out of their apartment because they were so isolated. They were so depressed.
Exactly. And it doesn't have to be a big to-do. Like you said, box of dominoes, a streaming subscription to Turner Classic Movies, and you watch an old school movie. Anything like that.
Never underestimate how much these older people can be card sharks, because my grandfather, seriously, my grandfather, days before he died, took everybody's money at the pinochle table.
Pinochle. I haven't heard pinochle in a long time.
I thought that was an activity at the Ramrod. Okay. That looks delicious. From the boardwalks lining Greater Fort Lauderdale's coast out to the suburbs near the infamous swamplands of the Everglades, you'll find restaurants as diverse as the region's landscape. Beachfront eateries teeter from toes in the sand high-end seafood spots, many that are friendly to your four-legged friends, to trendy taquerias pouring hundreds of types of tequilas and mezcals. Greater Fort Lauderdale has food options for everyone under the sun.
Next, we are proud of our special partnership with Sunshine Cathedral, the world's largest queer church here in Fort Lauderdale. Supporting that partnership, we are broadcasting from our permanent set here at Sunshine Cathedral at the Happening Out television studios. We broadcast Sunshine Cathedral's Sunday International Service at 10:30 a.m.
Well, we finish tonight's Queer News headlines with a segment we call LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up South Florida and Florida. The Bears of South Florida continue to build community with their September pool party. The Bears of South Florida, Inc. provide a safe and welcoming space for the Bear community of South Florida to socialize and engage in fundraising activities to benefit the local LGBTQ plus community. Their events are welcoming to all, and the funds they raise to go to other at-need organizations in the community. Their next fundraiser will be closing out the summer season with a pool party at the Solstice in Wilton Manors. The event will be held on Saturday, September 9th from noon to 4. For more information, go to bosfl.org.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. Adore Delano is thriving after coming out as trans and becoming sober. Adore Delano is now sober, transitioning, and looking cool. Earlier this summer, the ultimate RuPaul's Drag Race fan favorite shared a video on social media where she opened up about her gender identity, telling her followers that she is a trans woman and updating her pronouns to she, her. In the video, Delano thanked her fans for their continued support. Speaking with Out for an inclusive interview, Delano is quick to point out that this is still very early days in her transition. An interesting part of Delano's coming out video is her careful approach to explaining this whole process to her fans.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up entertainment. Nearly all trans representation in 2022's top movies was in Bros. Representation of trans people in major films is, sadly, still failing. According to a report from USC's Annenberg Inclusion Initiative, 80% of all transgender characters in the top 100 grossing movies last year were just in one movie, Bros. The study revealed in the top 100 movies of last year, only 2.1% of named characters were LGBTQ plus people. That's 87 out of 4,169. Of those 87, only 5 were trans, and a 6th was non-binary. Bros, which made a lot of news as the first theatrically released gay romantic comedy from a major studio, was a box office disappointment, earning less than $15 million worldwide. Still, it was a critical success with about 90% on Rotten Tomatoes.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News. Let's queer up education. Students and educators sued DeSantis over Stop Woke Act, saying it censors academic freedom. College students and professors in Florida are suing education officials over a new law spurred by Republican Governor Ron DeSantis' war on woke, saying it violates their constitutional rights by censoring academic freedom. The lawsuit was filed in federal court by students and professors at New College, a progressive school with a prominent LGBTQ plus community that was taken over earlier this year by DeSantis, by the governor, and his allies, who claimed it was indoctrinating students with leftist ideology. The suit alleges that the law is unconstitutional because it is overly broad and stifles free speech.
LGBTQ plus 1 Minute News, let's queer up education. Georgia teacher fired for reading kindergarten level book about gender to 5th grade class. Georgia school board voted along party lines to fire a teacher after officials said she improperly read a book on gender fluidity to her 5th grade class. The Cobb County School Board in suburban Atlanta voted 4-3 to fire Katie Rinderly, overriding the recommendation of a panel of 3 retired educators. The panel found, after a 2-day hearing, that Rinderly had violated district policies, but said she should not be fired. She had been a teacher for 10 years when she got into trouble in March for reading the picture book My Shadow is Purple by Scott Stewart at Due West Elementary School, after which some parents complained. The case has drawn wide attention as a test of what public school teachers can teach in class. That is today's news for the LGBTQ plus community on the world's first and only daily LGBTQ plus evening news show.
If our community is important to you, share this news with your friends and family. Are you, like most of America, part of our very large television audience watching this live LGBTQ plus news broadcast right now on Roku, Apple TV, Android TV, and Amazon Fire TV?
Queer News Tonight is the only live LGBTQ plus digital television show in the world that is out of the closet and into the headlines. We need your support. If our community is to grow, we must tell our stories and bring them to the attention of the broader world.
This is the only place in the world that tells these types of LGBTQ plus stories in motion and sound. That is the passion of Hotspots Magazine, Happening Out Television Network, and Queer News Tonight.
I'm John Hayden, and on behalf of these LGBTQ plus reporters, the anchors of Queer News Tonight, including Bad Papi, Jonathan Casanas, Paul Thomas, and Bob Hentschel. We will see you daily at 8 p.m. And to our LGBTQ plus world, we wish you a very good night.
Good night.
Good night.
We are Queer News Tonight, the world's first and only live daily LGBTQ plus evening news show, brought to you from Happening Out Television Network. We operate in the same model of PBS and NPR, but for the LGBTQ plus community. We educate, inform, and entertain by supporting the 10 pillars of our LGBTQ plus community, with more than 100,000 a week watching us on Roku, Apple Television, and other channels. To keep the story going, we accept donations with 100% transparency. Stay updated and live authentically with Queer News Tonight.